Ms. Shafak, it's about a bit of common wisdom that Donald Trump has won the election in the USA because he's gone fully emotional against the rationality of his counterpart Hillary Clinton. Now, you have just recommended to the intellectuals that they should become emotional as well. How shall we, the intellectuals, do it if he does it like this?
Well, I think as human beings we are all emotional creatures, and we should not forget that. Perhaps the problem is many of us have forgotten that. Of course, reason is very important, rationality is very important. I'm by no means underestimating that. But in addition to that, we need something else. We need the power of emotions. Because when you have populist demagogues tapping into people's emotions, there's no way you can stop them by solely relying on facts or logic or reason. Unfortunately, there's an imbalance there, because the first one who relies on emotions comes across as more genuine, even though he might be telling lies. So what do we do about it? Of course, we talk about knowledge is important, facts are very important, but in addition to that, I think we have to do a better job in understanding people's anxieties, worries, connecting with them, communicating with them, and offering other paths to follow rather than being guided by fear, which is very, very dangerous, both for individuals and societies.
We should not be guided by fear, but we should take care of the anxieties of our fellow people. Can you give me an example how this might play out, how I just can try to do it?
I have, I travel a lot, both in the Middle East and in Europe, and I hear lots of people sharing their concerns, first of all about the future, about the economy. Now the interesting detail is these are not necessarily people who have been affected necessarily negatively by globalization, but they have the worry, the concern, the perception that they might be affected. So the proximity to anxiety is very important, and we need to put thought into this as intellectuals, as people who care about what's happening in the world. We have to ask ourselves this question: how do I communicate with anxiety? How do I communicate with someone who is guided by anxiety? If I come across someone who's worried about refugees, who's worried about immigrants, who's worried about the other or the future, the worst mistake I can make is to look down upon that person because of that person's anxieties. His anxieties might not make sense to me, but I need to find a way to understand and to communicate. In most of the cases, we've seen this in the UK, for instance, people who have benefited from immigration. Economically, they benefited, they made profit. They were so concerned about the cultural impact of immigration that they voted for Leave campaign. So what I'm trying to say is it's not enough to look at economy alone. We have to look at perceptions, at culture, and at emotions at the same time.
So perhaps now, when experts are no more needed, when Trump doesn't want to talk to media, doesn't want to talk to intellectuals, there may be coming some kind of anxiety, because now we, the intellectuals, have to lose something. We have to lose the status we had perhaps to lose the income we had, at least the power we had. So does this make us more open for fears of other people, that we have to lose something?
Yeah. First of all, I think there's an anti-intellectual trend going on across nations, and I find this very, very dangerous. People sometimes confuse the word elite with the word intellectual, and then they confuse it with the word expert. So everything is jumbled up, you know, it's a big, big mess. And there's a negative attitude towards the whole basket. But we need experts, we need intellectuals, we need public intellectuals who speak their minds, who have a critical voice. It is very dangerous to denigrate them altogether. Of course, I'm not fetishizing expertise. The experts made lots of mistakes, and they also need to do a lot of self-criticism. But we do need people who have dedicated their lives to knowledge. So my worry is the world swings from one extreme to the other very easily, and we need to find the moderation. What can we do as writers, journalists, intellectuals? First of all, we need to leave our echo chambers. We need to get out, communicate with a diversity of people, and communicate the importance of diversity to the people.
Do you perhaps have as recommendation for us some role model, some politician or some writer, some intellectual who does more or less what you recommend?
I think we will benefit enormously from reading more, both fiction and non-fiction, you know, from not only reading in our own field, but from multiple fields. We need to be good listeners. And it always helps to read the writings of particularly European intellectuals, particularly European writers in the past decades who have unfortunately seen, or sometimes failed to see, the worst of humanity. I'm not saying that today is the same as 1930s, but there are some creepy similarities. And one of the reasons why totalitarianism, tribalism, xenophobia became so powerful in the European continent is because democratic institutions and people with democratic progressive ideals failed. We cannot afford to fail again. So we need to do a better job. And the only way to do that is by working together, by speaking up louder, by being very emotional, by putting our passion into our speeches, not only our reason.